All right, we're going to talk about some security issues. We're not going to talk about them all, but let's just talk about a couple things. Data theft or manipulation. More or less the data is either stolen, somebody else gets your data, whatever that might be, and for whatever purposes, or they take the data and they manipulate it and change it to something else, typically without people knowing that. We like to mention, so people understand, legal consequences. What legal consequences refer to is the idea that sometimes it's so hard to get people to maintain data confidentiality or the security of the data. So like in the medical field, we have HIPAA laws. At the college, we have laws about, I can't go around telling people what grades my students are getting. And so we have legal consequences that if somebody divulges the information, they, may go to jail or pay a fine or something. There's also places that require you to secure your Wi-Fi. You cannot let your Wi-Fi be open for anybody to drive up by your house and start using it as their internet access. Okay. I remember reading a case in Ohio where somebody got fined $250. They got caught using somebody else's Wi-Fi. They were parked on a street, and a police officer pulls up and asks them, you live here? No. And he gets a ticket for using somebody else's Wi-Fi because he observed him doing it on his laptop or something. So we've created legal consequences. If a company has a breach where somebody takes a large amount of information from them, they need to report it. It's just like recently you hear so much about emails being stolen, or the NSA and the issues there, and the government getting hacked by supposedly China and so forth. So they need to report that. They can't keep that hidden. Okay, especially financial institutions, they need to report breaches, or colleges and so forth. Now, it's really important for companies, it's really important to maintain productivity. So, network people cannot make things so secure, tighten up the security so secure that they can't be productive. It would be something, let's say, as ridiculous as this. They make people change your password 10 times a day. Okay, would that be real productive? Okay, I know most of us have worked somewhere where we have to change our password. So change it 10 times a day wouldn't be productive. Okay, in fact, you hear stories about security guys going nuts, and they create so much security that the people actually just figure out a way to bypass it. Okay? You have to be able to allow companies to be productive, but yet you can't let other things happen. Let's say data theft or manipulation of the data. So security really works with a number of areas. They work with the legal part of a business, the CEO or whatever, the CIO, and then the other people that actually work in the business. You come up with policies that make sense. I love to mention this. If you really want to keep things secure internally in a company, you really want to keep your items secured in here, really locked up so people can't get in, hire ethical people and ask them to not divulge any of the information. I'll mention that again later on. Cyber terrorism, it's this idea that we use technology to run so many items, so much from the, let's just say, the power grid. as one example. You know, somebody was able to go into that, hack into it, and somehow destroy access to that for a long period of time. You know, that would create panic or fear. I mean, and that's what they're trying to do. They're using cyber techniques to turn. All right. So we talked about, there's a bunch of extra things here on the screen because my recording stopped. So I'll finish this up. They use cyber techniques to actually scare you, okay? And I talked about the power grid. You know, if somebody could hack into the power grid and turn it off or destroy it, you know, something here, and next thing you know, we would have all kinds of people panicking. You'd create terror, okay? So it's not whether they want to steal data or manipulate it. They want to create terror among the people, okay? The last thing then here, I'll go over here, I must, identity theft. The key here is stealing your identity. If somebody steals your credit card, that's not a big deal. You cancel it and you're done. It's a done deal. But if somebody steals your Social Security number, and then become you and open a new credit line, that's an issue because you don't know it. They're charging things on your credit. Another thing I read was somebody'd steal an identity, and then they would go somewhere else, like, you know, be far enough away so somebody didn't know them, and they would get a major surgery, which isn't unusual. Somebody from Iowa could go to Rochester and get a major surgery and charge it to somebody else's Blue Cross Blue Shield. They actually, you know, steal somebody's Social Security number and their medical records, and they pretend they were them, and they have this surgery. Crazy. So the last thing on identity theft, the big issue is once that happens and your line of credit's been destroyed, it takes a long time to get that cleaned up. And there are some insurance companies, you can pay them a little bit of money. They're not going to necessarily stop somebody from stealing your identity, but they'll help you clean it up after the fact. And it's not real expensive, so that's something some people might consider. It's a security issue, right? And you're removing part of the responsibility. You're transferring part of the responsibility. That we talked about earlier on. Well, that's it.